Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and I'm a kick-ass business coach, and I'm on an absolute mission to help you find your purpose in life, to help you love what you do for work every single day, to help you be the rock star that you are meant to be, to make more money than you ever thought was possible, and to have more time freedom so you can actually enjoy the life that you're living. I'm here to help you set your life on fire. Hey, Nick Unsworth again, and hope you really enjoyed part one with Gary Vaynerchuk live in San Diego at our event doing the keynote. And I just want you to buckle your seatbelt for part two, because Gary's gonna bring the heat and turn it up a little bit. But what's interesting is that it's a little bit less of Gary in the keynote style, and it's actually Gary taking questions from the audience. And so what's so cool about that is you get to hear real life questions that you and me have, and things that we're thinking that we never think to ask, or sometimes we don't have the courage to ask. Well, in this audience, we got people talking, we got some funny things happening with the microphones, but we got people talking, and Gary was dropping the knowledge one person at a time, and it's really cool. So grab a beverage, a cocktail, popcorn, notebook, whatever it is. If you're listening to the audio version, what's up? Drive safe, but you're gonna love this episode with Gary Vee, and so stay tuned.
Yes, darling, what's your name? Eileen?
We're gonna have you guys come up to the old mic, and
I don't know if that's providing value, Nick. How about you run the mic around and people get to sit?
Can we get it? All right. I'll hustle. I'll mic run. I'll hold too. Let's go.
And by the way, that's me just razzing Nick and having fun. I think the room's small enough that I'm thrilled to repeat the question too. So whatever you guys decide, Nick, on your end.
Met you 4 years ago. You recommended video. Used it in my business.
Yep.
Quadrupled my income in the last 4 or 5 years.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Seriously, with a 2 or 3 minute interaction like this, I made a critical mistake.
Okay.
I stopped doing it
Okay.
because I got busy.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I want to ask you is, so what is next? Because I started with the flip camera you told me to start with.
Yep.
Then we upgraded. Didn't focus on my business at all, by the way, zero.
Yep.
First 18 months only focused on the community.
Yep. That's why you have a business. I mean, guys, this is the same old game, right? Like, what happens next is at that 18-month mark, you needed to audit yourself, and you needed to hire people to do the dumb shit that you didn't need to be doing, so that you could have continued to kind of execute against what was going on, right? I mean, I think, look, I've gotten miraculously more busy than I was 4 years ago, but I'm still engaging and replying to people's tweets and writing back to emails and taking time and all that stuff. Not because I'm the greatest guy ever, because it's what matters. And I hire people to do the things that matter less, even though I can do them better. See, the key of growing is understanding when somebody executing at an 8 instead of your 11 is better for you. And that's hard for a lot of people. It's easy for me because I'm a slob, I'm not a perfectionist, I failed all my fucking classes. That's always been the way I thought about it, right? But a lot of people do things that are commodity work that they could, and even non-commodity work, but you've got to find a balance. And very honestly, I'm gonna really go rogue on you. Just sleep 1 hour less and do both. I mean, like, the truth is, and by the way, that's not also the answer. Maybe you've just hit the work-life balance upside that you want. I don't know what you want. See, I know what I want, and I know that requires what I have to put into it. So for me, it's not what's next. What's next in the way you asked the question. To the advice I give you then, that will work for you, is what I wrote about in this book, which is producing content on the places people pay attention to matters, right? Like, it's gonna matter. Like, understanding the picture that feels like a very natural picture that you put out on Instagram, but is setting you up to do business matters. It matters. Like, understanding how to make an infographic for your business and putting it on Pinterest with a female-centric mentality behind it, that matters. So creating content, it's always been content, it always will be content. Right? It's the thing, what do we most care about? Movies and music, it's content. Content is king. Where we make that content and how we make that content is changing. When television came along, you had to make a video instead of audio for radio. But with television, at least this is how it played out, those videos had to be spectacular. ultimately those commercials became 30-second movies and shows, right? They're high quality. My belief is in social, we respond better because we got so tired of 50 years of polish, we respond better to authentic, right? We respond better to just like, your picture doesn't have to be perfect. Right? I mean, you remember my advice to video 4 years ago. Everybody wanted to do video shows that looked like TV. Wine Library TV looked like I was a hostage in Afghanistan. No audio, no lighting, right? Like just like real, you know? And it worked because it was holistic to what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to take the pretentiousness out of wine, right? Micro content. The day in, day out, videos and pictures and infographics and animated GIFs and all the stuff that works on the internet that brings awareness to what you're doing with a great balance of give, and then asking once in a while in that same format.
And delegate other stuff, not that.
Yeah, I mean, you should always be, every person in this room should wake up every day. You'll never do that. I don't either. Quarterly, this is a great time to do it. Yearly, you know, just like we all want to lose weight, you should be auditing, what am I doing, and can I cut the bottom 20% of what I do day in and day out and delegate that to somebody else, because then I can do the things that really drive my business.
Sweet. All right, guys, so here's what we're going to do. It's like hot potato bowling with a microphone, so whoever has it, when you see the first hand you see, just bring it right over to the next person.
You're a crafty Nick.
And, all right, so I looked at my 80-20 and I'm just taking the bottom half. Hey, I'm using your own shit, bro.
Respect.
That's delegation right there. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
One of the most important things to me is family. I have 2 kids and my wife.
Yep.
They're very young, so you know
Your wife or the kids?
Both.
Okay.
No, I'm playing around.
Nice work.
My wife's older than me. Yeah.
Nice.
But anyhow, she, you know, being here tonight was leaving our home with the kids.
Yes.
I stay at home. But anyhow, I know you have a family.
Yes.
And I have seen many men go out to work, make all the money,
Yep.
and lose their family.
Yes.
And to me, my kids is the most important thing in the world. And I know
That's
I'm
awesome.
going to be successful, so
Yep.
I don't have any limiting beliefs there.
Sure.
But I wanted to ask you, how do you balance? I know you have kids and a wife.
Yeah.
How do you balance your success with being a great father and a great husband?
Communication. So there is no answer to this question because every relationship is different, right? Like there's theoretical questions, but the truth is the only answer, and I've been asked this question for 7 years now, and the question and the answer have evolved. And where I sit today at this moment, my answer to that question is firmly grounded in an answer that I don't think I will change, which is communication. The reason I'm able to do what I do is communication. It started on our first date. On mine and Lizzie's first date, I knew that I wanted to marry her. I called her after I dropped her off out of our first date, 3 minutes after our first date. Before she was fully in her apartment, I called her and I said, opening line, I said, can you believe this is it? Huh? Like that's where I was at, right? And we were married within that year, right? And on our second date, 3 days later, I told her things like, you think I'm joking, but I want to buy the New York Jets, and you think, because you're only 23, that eventually we'll have a family and there'll be more life balance and I'll stop caring as much. I will never not be this person. I know myself now and I'm not going to change. I'm hungry. Building businesses is my oxygen. This is who I am, and you need to understand that. And if that's going to be an issue at hand, then we need to talk about that. And it was communicated from the first date, second date, to now. I check in. Like I'm away this whole week, right? Like because CES and this is insane. I mean, this is so rare for me to commit to anything on a Friday because I'm not going to be home in time. I mean, I'm taking. I couldn't make the red eye work. Like I'm going to miss time tomorrow, and so like. Even though I'm coming off of 17-day vacation, the best time I have leverage in theory to take a whole week and not be home on a Saturday, I still over-communicated about that issue. And so I think communication, everybody has different things. I have a lot of young entrepreneurs and people around me, and I watch, and both sides. This is not a male. I mean, it's amazing what's going on with female entrepreneurs. Last 4 investments I've made, female entrepreneurs, and it's been fun for me to have the reverse question now of like, hey, do you think your husband's gonna be okay with you? You need to talk about you need to talk about being home at 2 o'clock in the morning every night. Is he gonna be cool with that? Like, it's both ways. Like, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to over communicate. Things evolve too. Things evolve, right? Like, you may be hungry as hell now, you may not later. Like, you just have to over-communicate what your ambitions and what your wants are. If somebody truly loves you, they're gonna meet you halfway on what makes you the happiest. And so the way I do it is first through communication and second through extremism. What works for me is I work 8 o'clock in the morning to midnight. I mean, I don't get home into my apartment on a weekday, so let's call them 250 of them, right? I'm home out of the 250 weekdays, if I'm in New York City, I walk into my apartment minimum 11 p.m. I'm meetings from 7 p.m. till midnight. I mean, you remember, Nick, when Nick came out and did that live stream with us? Their crew, Renee's laughing.
We had some wine, we had some tequila, and then so we had a really good time, and it was just like, all right, we're like hanging with the CEO and this and that, and then all of a sudden, it was like, we hung out way past like what we're supposed to do together. It was super cool. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, guys, it's getting kind of late. It's 11 now, so let's get back to work. And they kept cranking, man. It was wild. It was crazy. The office was still half-packed.
They were laughing, right? Because we had like 4 people, but the book was coming. There was a lot going on. I was closing business. And like, we really had a meeting at 11 p.m. Lizzie's an incredible woman. Lizzie's very independent. My wife is very independent. She can make herself happy. She's in her own world. She's got her things that matter. Like, she's she doesn't need me for her happiness. Lizzie also grew up with a successful dad in corporate America who didn't control his schedule and traveled a lot and was very successful. So there was a lot of reasons why it works for me, but it's specific to Lizzie and Gary. And I can't give that advice to everybody because, my best friend who runs Wine Library, his wife grew up with a dad that was home every day at 4:30. Every day at 4:30, and she struggles with Brandon coming home at 7 or 8 from Wine Library because that's just not what she's used to. And maybe he didn't do a good job communicating up front or whatever other variables within their relationship. And so I think it's communication. And it's ebb and flow, right? Like, like 2 years ago, like Lizzie was like, listen, I need you to travel a little less. I'm like, baby? She's like, listen. I'm like, all right, sorry. Like certain years, certain years take ebb and flows. And you know what the reaction to that was? I just doubled my speaking fee, which was great, right? It ended up being a great win, right? Like, I traveled less but made more, So, you just have to communicate. You have to check in. And if you're lucky enough to have what I have, which is really good EQ and you can feel it, when you feel like your partner isn't feeling right, you just need to attack it head on. Communication's the game for everything. It's how I build all my companies. Communication is the reason I have a happy life, because I'm uncomfortable in negativity and I address it immediately. Yeah, that was easy. Hello. What's your name?
I'm Emily.
Emily.
And I'm a doctor, and in the last 6 months, I realized that there's something about that I'm not 100% alive. And I'm really an artist and a healer.
Okay.
And when people get inspired and they're just 100% alive, that makes me happy. So I was thinking today, I just got an idea of, I love celebrities, I love big events, I love socializing.
Okay.
And so how do I create a business that maybe I'm working with celebrities who feel terrible about themselves when they're not in public, who are maybe a little depressed, anxious, but they might also provide some networks of me doing charity work abroad or social events where I can impact more people with just their heart feeling whole.
Yep.
But where do you find them? What people are not going to be searching for that. What do you call that? What do they want? Because people are not going to say, I want to be a better person, or I want to heal my heart, or I want to stop the racing mind, because they probably don't know they have a racing mind.
You need to be on the offense, right? So, listen, I'm the last person in the world, and plenty of people here come from SEO backgrounds, and people know that, I'm the most negative on SEO, even though I know it works, because I love the offense of being, to me, I love SEO. It's great and all, but it's like people searching, it feels defensive to me. It's like, but the psychology is great. It's why it's $1 trillion business, right? You need something, there it is. It's great. To me, you need to storytell first. Like, you need to put out content. Like, you need to, basically, I have no idea what the you're talking about. I'm serious. I'm being dead serious. Like, you could be talking about, like, I'm trying to, like, in real time be like, are you talking about happiness coach? Are you talking, like, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, which means you desperately need to start putting out videos, written white papers, whatever, however you communicate to the world, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's written word, whether it's through pictures, you need to communicate. It's on you to communicate to the world first and then have them reverse engineer. What business model you take from that? Well, those are well established. You're either going to do consulting, you're either going to do event marketing, you're either going to represent people. I mean, nobody's inventing new business models. I just hope everyone understands. There's no invention of new business models. There's just execution in the new marketplace. And so all that I'm doing with social media is what I did with email marketing. Right? Like, it's just the same old thing over and over. It's just our attention goes to different places. What do you think? Video game marketing, that $1 billion, they didn't invent anything. It's display advertising. You're playing, some game and there's a Pepsi machine in the video game in the background. That's been around forever. Nobody's inventing new, nobody asked me going forward, how am I gonna make money? They're all figured out. Pick which ones you want, and decide to go there. And so, I could have classes and I could have events, but I don't. I choose to build my business a different way, and I think people do it whichever way feels right for them. I put out all my thoughts in a $20 book, 13, right? But I use it as a leverage point to build, one of the biggest new, digital agencies. Like, you can monetize. I get paid to speak. Like, you decide how you want to monetize that feels right for you. But first, if you're trying to sell people on the healing, happiness, behind the scenes, whatever that is, you've got to story tell first. I built business. It's funny. I built Vaynermedia recently. Like, the reason I was so quiet in 2012 and early 13 by my standards was I went back and started building a business again. I wanted to remind everybody that the reason I'm worth listening to is because I actually build businesses, right? You know what I did? I'm giving you advice to tell your story and execute. I did that. You did too. If you're a doctor, you've put in the work. You need to story tell. When I came out and started becoming somebody of talking about things, I was already 32 years old and already built a business, or already built a $70 million business. That was the tangible advice. I wasn't saying it while I was coming up. If 17-year-old dude in the background, right, who I like quite a bit and keep referencing, I'm not gonna listen to his business advice, not because he's 17, unless he actually built a business, right? So, I don't know, I'm a big fan of only listening to people that have actually done the thing they're giving advice about. I mean, to me, that's the craziest going on. Hey,
Hi,
Justin.
Gary. Justin Finkelstein, and over the last couple of months, I've been building my whole audience on SoundCloud, and I basically tell other people's stories. But I noticed
SoundCloud.
Well, that's what I want kind of to hear. I noticed in your book, it's not mentioned. Nobody's really talking about it.
Yep.
Can you speak a little bit about the platform?
The reason nobody's talking about it, quote unquote, is this focus to me was on the businesses more than a personal brand. Even though I did put in some celebrities in there more for like, haha, look how bad Lil Wayne's doing it. Audio is very difficult. / not really, right? But for me, meaning, here's what I mean. Personality audio is easier, right? Look, we're living through a resurgence of podcasts, as a lot of people know, right, in the tech space over the last year or two. But audio is, if you look at what's really working in today's society, it's picture-based. Pictures are the killer app, right? If you look at Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, Instagram, and you look at them on your phone, they're all the same product. It's pictures. Audio is very different. There's a time commitment that we are not willing to give as society at the highest of scale. The number one asset, the number one commodity that we all treasure right now is time. And that limits audio's upside because time is required at such a heavy weight. Doesn't mean it's not important. As a matter of fact, I believe it's an advantage. If you're able to communicate in audio form, I think SoundCloud is incredible. I'm a huge fan. I love that you're jamming on there. And that's great. I mean, the reason I don't talk about it though, it's dramatically less practical to a lot of people. And more importantly, this book was predicated on all the learnings that I've learned from Vaynermedia for the last 18 to 24 months, and we don't have any learnings from SoundCloud. So I don't like to talk about shit I don't know what the I'm talking about.
Great, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, hey, we're going to spice up a little bit. So we got a mic runner. And so if you want to point and shoot for whoever wants
let's
it.
go to that lady
boom.
right there in the middle.
Sweet.
Yep, that's you. You can stand.
The mic really wasn't getting too far.
So,
What's your name?
Nisha.
Nisha.
So actually, the first time I came across you, I didn't like you because you used a lot of F-bombs,
Yes.
and I thought it was a little over the top.
Yes.
But then you kind of grew on me, and I did some research on that team you're crazy about. And
Yes.
I actually don't have a question. I do have a question, but I want to follow the advice in your book, which is the jab, jab, jab,
Yes.
right hook. And the jab that I wanted to ask the whole audience to work with me on is, what can we do to help you win that prize? You know,
You mean buy the New York Jets?
yeah, like I'm sure the bunch of us here and the networks we have can make it happen.
Yep.
And I challenge everyone here to kind of join me on that, is because the guy who owns it actually, I did
Woody
some research.
Johnson?
Yeah, so I guess you know more than I do, but he spent $600 million when the worth of the team was about $200 million, which is kind of crazy when you have that kind of money. But I think what he cares about, his daughter died of diabetes when she was 30 years old. And
That's right.
It's heartbreaking to lose your child, no matter what. And I think there's an angle there because we are all human beings. So that's kind of just an opening. I do have my own sort of business I'm working on, but I'm so effed up about that right now that that I probably should get some therapy first before I actually do it, or I'll mess the whole thing up. Thanks.
Thank you, Nisha. You know, that's very nice. And listen, you know, it's so funny. As you were asking that, it's funny. You know, at the end of the day, the number one thing I would tell everybody to do is bet on your strengths, right? Like, I'm so fascinated by the amount of money made in America on teaching us to fix the things that we're not naturally good at, right? Whether it's weight loss, whether it's, it runs the gamut. The amount of money made in the world on trying to make you good at something you're naturally never, ever gonna be good at is pretty remarkable. And something just happened during your question that reminded me of that, and here's what it is. The reason I love jab, 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 right hook, give, 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 and then ask, is I'm uncomfortable the other way. I'm never uncomfortable. You wanting to help me buy the Jets and getting everybody help made me feel uncomfortable. I don't like getting without giving first, and it's just so interesting. And so what it made me think was question, okay, maybe I'm giving advice to people who only want to get, and so how do I help them build infrastructure so whether maybe they're not the engine of giving, but maybe they surround themselves with a team that is doing that. I just wanted to share that. Cool. That gentleman right there in front of you. Yep.
Hey, Gary. My name's Andy Hagen. I'm a DJ here in San Diego. I do weddings and parties and events.
Awesome, Andy.
I've had a brand that I brought with me from Minnesota when I got to San Diego, and not too many people knew it out here. Now, I've been here for 14 years.
Cool.
And I'm pretty well established with a lot of the venues and a lot of the other pros. They recommend
Are you
me
a
lot.
Vikings fan or a Chargers fan?
I'm a Vikings fan.
Good.
And it's, yeah. And
respect.
My question is I'm about to do a brand relaunch, and I'm just curious if you had the chance to do a whole brand makeover on any one of your businesses or something similar to what I'm trying to do, what would be your first things, or what would be your for sure go-to things to do? Or how would you have fun doing it?
Even the way you posed the question makes me immediately intuitively think that you're overthinking it. Okay? So like, I think when people talk about brand, like specifically when you're providing a service like you do and you're a human being, I always get this feeling like everybody's trying to figure out like which WWF wrestling character should I be, right? And I get like completely, like I always want to take a step back, right? So everybody around me in the last 5 to 7 years, my handlers, my agents at CAA, my speaking, my all this, every one of them has asked me, stop talking, like, this was the biggest conversation 3-4 years ago. Don't talk about wine and business and the Jets and cursing and all this. You're not a stand, like, they asked me to narrow what I was, right? They're like, you can't talk about wine and business and the Jets and this, like, you're confusing the market. I'm like, what are you talking about, right? Like, there's this cookie cutter thought about branding that is so broken. What you want, my advice to you is to just be you, right? To not overthink what brand you're trying to be. This is, it's very easy for you to articulate what value you bring, right? That you provide entertainment in these events, you're good at it, you've done it for a long time. I think what you may be asking me, even subconsciously, is a slightly different question, which is, where is the opportunity market? And that's what I think is the differentiation that I'm trying to understand. Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's probably more of it. Like, there's some missed opportunities I've had with my brand in the past. Like,
what does that mean? Talk.
Well, with Facebook or with any social marketing and stuff. If I could start with a clean slate and have a better.
So you don't feel great about the stuff you've put out on those platforms?
Right.
You threw too many right hooks?
I feel like that, yeah. And so.
The best part is America loves the redemption. So just stop doing dumb shit and everybody will be pumped.
Perfect.
Do you know what I mean, though? I mean, just, by the way, there's a yang to the yin that I said earlier. Remember when I said you're not entitled to anything and, like, you're only good as your last day? Well, it's kind of the cool thing about entrepreneurship. If you screwed it up for the last 7 years, just stop screwing it up and go forward, and you'll see the results of the good thing. You know what I mean? I think that's really the way to look at it.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, you got it, brother. How about the gentleman all the way back against the wall?
There's a lot of intelligent people in this room, and I feel like
What's your name, man?
Billie Jean.
Billie Jean.
Not like the Michael Jackson song. Get your jokes out now. Get your jokes out now. But I feel like a lot of people.
You're not my lover.
Yeah. I hope
you told me to get my joke in.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
We're very much on the same page. Go ahead.
And so I feel like a lot of us kind of know what to do. But my question is, what's your secret to actually doing, like making it happen? Because I feel like that's the only struggle that anyone actually has. So just, what's your advice on that? I
got a really good answer to this, and this one I never knew man, did I used to dodge this question. Because it's like, what do you say, right? Like, dude, I think there's a couple things. First of all, if I could give every one of you one thing, if I could inject, and we'll probably be getting to this kind of stuff soon in our society, right, Doc? Like inject, if I could inject one personality trait, Billie Jean, into every single person in this room, it'd be self-awareness. Because if you have self-awareness, you've got a prayer. Now, not everybody has it. So, like, the advice I'm about to give first is to the self-aware. To the self-aware in the room, you know what motivates you, right? Do other people motivate you? Does money motivate you? Does, the work-life balance? Like, trying to really deeply get into what motivates you is important. But really what the big game is how do you get to the truth? The reason people don't do things is because of the truth. They don't want to face the truth. They don't want to, we trick the living shit out of ourselves. Like, the human brain is gangster, right? Like, it lets us do incredible things. If the day, I got an answer. You know how, like, when you got to college / a little bit older, do you know that real big shift we all went through between high school and then, let's say, whether it was like between 16 and 23, like when you're 14 or 15, you can't take any jokes about you. You just don't have your self-esteem up enough, right? You're against it. And then somewhere by 22, you're making jokes about yourself and everything just got a lot better and easier. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate that same business version. I, from the get, knew what I sucked at, knew what I was good at, and didn't care that I sucked at those things and just went. And also knew what I tapped out at, right? Like, I know how I'm gonna buy the New York Jets. Maybe it's gonna be some amazing random woman in San Diego that helps me get it, but that wasn't the game plan, right? The game plan was betting on my strengths, which is I can't build Facebook and Twitter, right? I can't become a hedge fund this. What I can do is build brands. So long term, I'm gonna launch a bubble gum or a sneaker brand. I will build something that I will sell for multi-billions of dollars and then have a chance to do it. I've known this forever, and I've been doing everything in my career towards it. Retail, now an agency that represents billion-dollar brands, and I'm eating crow. I have a service business. I hate clients, right? But I'm learning what I'm learning, and I need to learn, and I'm meeting the right people along the way. So, Bill J, I think the way to the way to really do stuff is to do the stuff you actually like to do. And everybody's tricking you along the way, including yourself, of all the other things you need to do. When you become whole and confident enough, like, this is just what I do, and this is the real brain when you're okay with where it taps you out at, when you're like, cool, I'm only gonna make $300,000 a year, when you can get there, or 50, or 5 million, or whatever it may be, when you just can get cool with where you're at, and what you're good at, and what that leads itself to, a couple of funny things happen. You start saving a lot of time on other stuff, which allows you to play the game slightly different and opens up other opportunities that you would have never had. So I think, it's impossible for me to give you this, there's no tactic. This is not like do 10 sit-ups, right? You're asking me like, I know that I need to do sit-ups. How the hell do I get to do the sit-ups? The truth is, you don't do the sit-ups. You do something else. You run, right? You do push-ups. You do backflips in the pool. You do the that you want to do. And like, I really believe in that tremendously. Like, I'm terrible at anything that I don't want to do. And so is everybody else. Cool. Let's jump in back here. And then I'm going to go to the right side in the front here. So anybody, got you. Okay.
My name's Thriller. No. I guess I have to stand up.
Yes.
No, my name's Dave Austin, and I get the patience. I love it.
Yep.
But I want to know your time frame on the jets. I want to know how much you want it. I really do, because it's very doable. So I just want to know what your plan is.
I eat my own dog food. I never think about that. I think I'm being 1 billion% honest with you. I never think about that. Fundamentally, I think it's somewhere in a 20 to 25 year window. That's what feels intuitive, gut feel. If I had a bet, but I never think like, if I don't get it by 47 or 52, it's just not how I think. I really don't. I'm completely convinced that it's doable, but I've done a lot of the hard things and the patient things that have set me up. Most of my, when I invested in Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook and those companies, I made money. But because I didn't have that much money, I could only make so much. When you're putting $50,000 into an investment, even if you make 6 million, which is, right? It's still not enough to buy $1 billion team. But oh, by the way, the people you invested in happen to have 4 and 5 and 6 and $700 million,
exactly.
Right? So I do a lot of things. I'm strategic as for all my F-bombs, for all my insanity, for all my like hyperness. I'm quite an interesting little poddler, and I know where it's gonna go, but I don't care if I'm 47 or 53 or 62.
Cool. And one last question then. This last book, did you have any kind of time frame as far as when you wanted to bring it out?
Yes, as soon as possible, because I wanted to own the story as the guy that most put this out there. I know that the art of putting out content that is in micro, in essence, and on social networks is marketing for the next half decade to a decade, and I wanted to own the story. And as soon as I believed in it and believed that I could deliver something great, I moved as quickly as I could.
Awesome. Tonight maybe I'll talk about buying the jets.
Great. Let's go over here. This young lady over here. I'm paying attention, Nick, on the time. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Jessica.
Jessica.
I wonder if you could speak to the fact that some businesses deal with more private issues in a consumer's life.
Okay.
And I feel that it can be challenging sometimes to reach them on social media. For example, I work with eating disorders.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to publicly broadcast, hey.
Yeah, who's tweeting like, I'm up, I can't eat I get it.
I watched your Marie Forleo episode. I was like kind of yelling at it, like, but how, because not everybody wants to identify. You said it was about the identity, and like,
of course,
not everybody wants to identify.
But you're thinking about the notion of like people put like, oh, it's so easy for you, wine guy, right? People say they're drinking wine, and you can jump into that, but you're just looking at it from one tactic. Mm-hmm. Again, your business, since people aren't openly sharing it, is not super different than Doc over here. It's on you to put out great content that reaches them. So if I'm you, right, I'm figuring out very quickly how to storytell around your issue. I mean, nobody has more upside than you, because I've looked at eating disorder data. I mean, you have a lot of young women that are in that game, especially early on.
70 million.
They live on these 3 platforms. If you don't figure out how to put out content on Snapchat, Instagram, and Pinterest around this issue, like, you should start a series of Did You Know? Like, you know the answers to certain questions that if I said something you would answer, well, flip it and start a series of did you know and like ways to help people. You're in the public broadcasting business, right? You're in PSA business. That's what you're in. You just have to make it micro. No more 30-second, no more, I did it because of you, like drug TV commercials, right? That's over. That's 80s for all you youngsters. What you need to do is make those versions of that content. So you have to put out content, and then you have to be smart about your mechanics. Maybe for you, you put out a piece of content, it drives to a page, and then that page contacting you can be anonymous. Because if I made the contacting anonymous, my belief is that I would get more young women feeling more comfortable to say I have a problem, and then if I can talk to them, maybe on the second transaction, they'll give me their name, versus them coming to the website, seeing that they have to put their name and backing out. So you just need to figure out your funnel. Cool. How about the gentleman in the white hat I promised to back there? Did I answer your question? Hold on. You're not going to be able to jump into... You're not going to get massive shares, but you don't need massive shares. Listen, for everybody that looks like me, that makes lots of money and being out there, there's people that are making 6 times more money than me that you've never heard of. Like, there's a lot of ways to skin it. Right? So you're not going to win the 8, but you may get massive shares because you have to think about how to do it. Like, when you could do fluffier content that is, did you know, that isn't a hard-hitting issue, but it's an innuendo that was more likely to be shared on Pinterest than not. You know what I mean? You're not going to put like negative, like hardcore messaging. That's not going to be shared. But like, you could put out enormous amounts of content that leads to you, and that leads to that conversion. It's content. But you don't need to get the social media exposure because nobody wants an innuendo that they have an eating disorder if they don't want anybody to know, which makes a ton of sense. It's private, but you could still be putting out tons of content. There's also thousands, tens of thousands of people that find this issue to be very powerful, right? You have millions of men and women who've been cured from or are on the right track from eating disorders that would be thrilled to share. You're a very obvious case of a question for me. You've decided to narrow in on the negative instead of realizing all the positive, right? You're like, woe is me, I can't do this. Who gives a fuck? Don't do it, and do all the other shit. You can do a load of stuff. You're focusing on one little thing. That was for all of you, just so you know. That was me ranting to like make sure everybody heard that. Cool. Yes, sir.
Hey Gary, my name is Michael. My wife and I just finished a web series.
Okay.
And we're about to release it. Like, it hasn't even been, we just literally finished editing it 2 weeks ago.
You mean a video?
Yeah, it's an 8-part series, so it's 8 episodes. They're about 2 to 3 minutes each. So we're really super excited about the micro content.
Congrats.
It's called Saved by the Pole.
Okay.
And it's basically set in the world of a strip club. So we want to, it's comedic, it's funny, it's tasteful. We want to get...
Yeah, don't judge him.
Don't judge me. We actually have one of the stars of The Sopranos in it, Vinny Pastore, who played Big Pussy, so we were able to do some good stuff. So we want to basically get people to see it, eyeballs to watch it. Ultimately, our goal is to have it go viral and get the attention of Netflix, Hulu, and some of the big companies to basically buy it or
right. So you're basically putting out a web series, yes, and you want to turn it into money, like the 8 other billion web series that are going to come out next week.
Exactly.
Okay. So what's the question?
How do we do that?
So I think number one, it was the first thing I talked about when I got here, which is if the web series sucks, no tactic is going to help you.
Right.
If it's great, you already have a prayer, right? To me, what I talk about in my book, what I believe in most is you take the best 4, 5, 6 seconds from those 3 minutes and you put out that content and make it shareable, right? So like that's one thing, that's a tactic to think about. Number 2, relentless without spamming awareness tactics. How long have you been taping this series?
We just shot it in New York about a year ago, but we got pregnant in between, so
Congrats.
we had to take time off.
That's awesome.
So now that he's 7 months old, now we're back on it. We just finished editing it, so we had to take a little break.
Awesome. You should have figured out the 500 people on Twitter that you think could have affected this outcome of viewership, and you should have, a year ago, started building relationships with them so that everybody tries to make stuff happen, and they do it you know how you sell a book? You sell it a year before it comes out. You don't sell it when it comes out because now you're running out of time. And when you don't have time, you go in for the right hook without any jabs. You immediately have to go home, map the 500 people, whether they're producers, whether they're executives at Netflix. You have to do work. You have to map the 500 people that matter, that can drive success for this, former strippers, like whatever it is. I'm being serious. I'm being serious. And you need to start building a relationship with them. Okay. Maybe replying to what they're talking about. It's not about you. Yeah. Because if you're just gonna tweet 10, 15 random people and be like, hey, check out our thing, you're just asking with no context. Yeah. That never works, right? Yeah. So my biggest piece of advice is, one, think about how to take the best clips and make them smaller and get them out there. But two, parallel, build some relationships so that people drive awareness to those smaller clips to create more sharing, to bring more awareness.
But that's what we did, because originally it was gonna be a 20-minute, and then we cut it down to 8 2-minute segments. So now, my other part is, how do we release it? Should we release it all at once, or like once a day, or once a week, or what? Like, what
both have worked from what I've looked at. Again, a lot is predicated on the quality, a lot. Yeah. But make sure you're distributing it everywhere you can. That for sure. You just, don't worry about it being anywhere exclusive. Also, give a lot of thought to websites that share, college humor, like all those kind of distribution places, not just social networks, actual .coms, break.com, like distribution. It's not just YouTube and social networks. Hit up, 9gag. There's just so many things out there.
Okay. Oh, cool. You see, it's called savebythepoll.com. The website's up.
Thanks, brother.
All right.
Should I wrap it up, Nick? Awesome. Let's do it. Cool. Let's do this gentleman up here, and then we're gonna go to the dude that's against the wall, all the way in the back.
Hey Gary, my name is Dave.
Hey Dave.
My question is, you mentioned earlier that information is basically useless.
I said that basically information is less valuable than it's ever been because it's at our fingertips.
So I'm an affiliate marketer.
Yep.
And all this great content that is being created by other people, all this great information.
Yep.
Is that something that you might recommend repurposing that in the different social networks and using that for providing value if I find it, and just sharing that, as opposed to maybe creating creating my content?
I think so. Listen, I never like giving advice that I don't take myself. I rarely DJ content. I almost never. I have 120,000 tweets. I think I've done like 50 pieces of content that hasn't been mine. 92% of it is me engaging with you guys, and the other 8% is like, here's my stuff. That's my tactic. But you look at other people, and they've done Jason Kotke, Jason Hirschhorn. Like, the reason I think the answer is, if you can do your own stuff and you can provide value, you do as much of that as possible, because that's your equity. You get a lot of equity out of that. But much like following what's going on with EDM music, it's interesting to see the DJs having more brand equity than sometimes the artists. So there is a place for DJs because we like time. If I follow you on Twitter and I feel like you do a great job, if I think that you're spending 4 hours a day reading everything around the web, and then I can consume it in 13 minutes, you've provided me value. Got it?
Understood.
So the answer is a mix to some degree. I should probably do a little more DJing. But it comes down to what makes it work for you.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool, man. We're gonna go to the gentleman all the way in the back. I like how you stood early. I like the. That was the best. The Charger fans in this room love me for winning that Dolphins game.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know you've talked a lot about how Instagram, you think moving forward, is the most powerful social
I think Instagram
platform?
Is basically Facebook right now.
Yeah, because now how would you take people from Instagram and get them on your site?
You can't.
Yes,
because you can't link out.
Exactly.
So you have to treat it like print magazine and outdoor billboard mentality. You have to inspire them through the picture, because you can't do it tactically through the execution of the tech.
Indeed. Okay. Good enough answer.
That's the right answer.
Sweet. I believe it.
That's what I got. Let's take this gentleman in the hat. Right. Yep. This guy right here. Oh, did you have it? Was that it? Let's give it to this gentleman right here.
Oh. You got me. By the way, this has been a great day, Nick. I didn't expect this. This is great. The whole team. Gary Vaynerchuk, like a lot of people here probably.
What's your name, man?
My name is John. Like a lot of people here, I read Crush It in about a weekend, and for me, that's very fast, okay? And I was completely inspired. I've worked in fashion for 13 years, and so I was like, I think I could do that, you know? Like, I speak a lot. I'm gonna speak at a fashion summit in 2 weeks from now. It's gonna, you know, I'm curating the panel and stuff, so I'm into it. So I'm like, okay, pick a niche, I could do this. Been doing streetwear fashion specifically for 13 years, built brands, worked with brands. A year ago, I got hired. I was a creative director of a brand. And that put I tried a YouTube channel and then I kind of put it on pause. So we got sued by Burberry about a year ago from now.
Okay,
congrats. Or, you know, last year. So I'm like, that's great. You know, I had my whole year planned for 13 and I'm like going to China, going to Vegas for all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I should check out my YouTube channel that I started. And I'm like, whoa, this is still getting subscribers. So I dedicated the end of the year, the beginning of this year, and this is why Nick's stuff is so great for me. It's really speaking to me. I'm following you. Like, basically, this is great for me because I follow your advice. I've seen all your videos a million times. So I'm at a point where I feel like I'm jabbing.
Yep.
I have like 60 videos up. I try to drop 3 videos a week. It's called Designer Advice. Designer John Phenom on YouTube is my channel. And so I'm trying to figure out. So this year I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep jabbing. I'm getting through the book. I'm keep jabbing, and I'm trying to speak somewhere every month because the venues don't really exist. So I'm gonna create some of the venues.
Good for you.
So here's my question.
Please.
How do I monetize?
I mean, you know, so how do you monetize? Back to what I said earlier, which is all the monetizing ways have been created. We have to decide what you're best at and what you want to do. Do you want to build your personal brand so you can write a book and get paid to publicly speak? Do you want to sell a product, right? Do you want to build an agency because you're a creative director and you want to go that route? There's a lot of ways you can go. I think the real question to you is, from me, how do you want to monetize? Do you want to answer?
Yeah, I guess I gotta figure that out. Let me
ask you a better question.
Yes.
Using all the self-awareness you have in your body, what do you think the best way for you to monetize is? Because, by the way, we're living through a very interesting time where everybody thinks they have to have their own business, which is not true. Like, we have to really understand that. And I know that's kind of like sacrilege to a room like this, but maybe the best way for you to monetize is to become the creative director at Puma and make $900,000 a year. And I don't know you, and I don't know what the best way for you to monetize is.
Right.
But I promise you, there's no confusion of how you monetize, right? Like, you can start a brand and sell it through YouTube. I mean, how good are you? And like, what are you good at? But like, there's plenty of ways to monetize. And by the way, giving away shit for free is an incredible way to start to monetize. Let me explain. Back to Andy, DJ. I was thinking, I didn't get to this on your question. I've got like 50 DJs at this point since Crush It that I've literally built their careers completely unpredicated on them giving away 2 or 3 events for free up front within whatever genre they wanted to be in. Because it's the best word of mouth business ever. You do 1 wedding for free and you're good. There's 7 other people at that wedding that are about to get married and you get their business. This notion of not giving stuff away for free is insanity. So, you know, you want to get paid to speak at events? Go do a bunch of them for free, like I did. And now I get paid a lot, right? And so, but not because I did it for free, because I was awesome at it, right? And so like, you have to be good too. Right? Like, you could give away a free DJing at a wedding and you might ruin the wedding. No referrals. Right? So it's the combination of hustle and execution. Billie Jean's question was the most interesting for me that I liked because that's all I care about. Like, if you can execute, it's easy. But then people get romantic and philosophical about it. Like, that's my time. That's what I actually sell. You're not entitled to shit, right? So put out the work, and the network effect will happen if you're good enough. And if you're not, cool. Try the next thing that you might be good at. Everybody's got something. It's true. Now, but not everybody should have their own business. And being self-aware enough to know, hey, here's what I'm great at. Let me be You know how much money the number 2 through 15 person at Vaynermedia is gonna make? You know how much money and how much happiness and how much none of the pressure that I deal with they're going to have? So self-awareness is the theme. Maybe you're just a great number 2 or a great number 3 or just a great creative director. Maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that. And when you start tripling down on what you are and what you're good at, many better things start happening. Many better things. I'm very concerned about the notion of, the Social Network movie came out. Everybody thinks they're Mark Zuckerberg all of a sudden. Everybody's watching Shark Tank. Everybody thinks they're a f***ing entrepreneur. They're not. The amount of f***ing bullshit fake entrepreneurs that are rolling around America right now is ludicrous. People that never sold shit in their, if you didn't sell something before you were 15, 17, 19, 20 years old, you're not a salesperson. Do you understand that? And so I think that there needs more and more self-awareness. Just like I didn't draw or create but you did, right? So you've gotta bet on what you are, and you can't let what it looks like out there dictate. You just need to get true inside and start executing against that. It just works every time. The reason I build big businesses with hundreds of employees is because I put players in the best position to succeed. Do you know how many people come into my company and think they're a creative director and I make them an account manager? And they don't like it. But that's what I do for a living. Put players in the best position to succeed. What I'm asking you here tonight in San Diego to do is to get as self-aware with yourself as possible and put yourself in the best position to succeed. Don't try to do what you think is the right move. Don't do what you think is the biggest money-making opportunity. Do the thing that you've always done since you were a kid and triple, quadruple, and 10x down on that, period.
Dude, round of applause. Come on, stand up. All right. I hope you enjoyed part 2 with Gary Vaynerchuk. And so I'm just winding down my day here. We just rocked a Pay It Forward Friday with John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire. And you got to check that out. If you haven't seen Pay It Forward Friday TV yet, you got to jump over there. It's our other show, and we just do a random act of kindness, and we just do it on camera. And we run around, and it's on the bay, it's in a grocery store, it's buying gas, you name it, but it shocks people. So we just did one with John Lee Dumas with Entrepreneur on Fire. So much fun. And so check that show out. But what I also want to do is I want to just say that I hope that you really took a lot out of this episode with Gary Vaynerchuk. And what I want to ask you is if you can help us. So we got started. It's been super, super exciting. So we launched the podcast, and in the first day and a half, because we had a really great strategy, we ended up getting to number 9 on the charts for video. How crazy is that? Number 9. And so we passed Anderson Cooper on our first day, and Meet the Press. And so it was so much fun. And now we're just kind of fighting to stay up. And so I really want to ask for your help along that journey. So, we invested in Gary Vaynerchuk. We really want to grow this show so we can bring more and more cool value to you guys. And so to help us out, we have a really cool contest. You just go to lifeonfirecontest.com, and you're going to see all the prizes that we have. You're also going to see the simple ways that you can enter. And take us up on that. We got some cool things we're giving away. We'd love for your help, and stay plugged in. I want to hear how we can further help you guys, and most importantly is we want to help you live your life on fire. So we want you to love what you do for work every single day. We want to help you guys totally get to that spot where you're just so happy, so fulfilled, because you're doing what you love. That's what this is all about. So have a great rest of your day. Again, go to lifeonfirecontest.com and enter to win some cool prizes and help us out. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers.
I'm here to help you set your life on fire.